Yuna, a young woman living in a quiet suburb of Japan, whose life seemed simple, steady, and peaceful. Her husband, Billy, preparing for work. They had been classmates once, young dreamers sitting side by side, whispering about the future they wanted to build together. Years later, those dreams had become their shared reality, a cozy home, stable jobs, and what everyone else would call a perfect marriage. But sometimes, even perfection can feel like silence. Yuna started to notice it, the subtle distance between her and Billy. The conversations that used to last until midnight had become brief exchanges about errands and schedules. The laughter that once filled their evenings had been replaced by a polite quietness. She didn't blame anyone. She just felt something invisible slipping away. It wasn't sadness exactly, more like a quiet wondering. When did we stop truly seeing each other? One afternoon, while sorting through her inbox, she received a call.
久しぶり。もう5年も会ってないのに。もしもし。
もしもし、ゆな？久しぶり。
ほんと久しぶり。元気だった？
もちろん、元気。
よかった。どうしたの電話なんて。びっくりしちゃった。
今度ね、高校時代に仲良かったメンバーで同窓会しないって話になってるの。ゆなも来るよね。
行きたい。
よかった。そう言ってくれると思った。
でも、旦那に聞いてみるね。それにしても久しぶりだね。ね、あと誰来るの？あ、本当に？最近会ってなかったから。楽しみ。まゆみは？最近どうなの
？She received a class reunion invitation. Yuna blinked. It had been nearly 10 years since she'd graduated. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she wanted to face the nostalgia, the old memories, the people who had once known her before marriage, before routine. When she mentioned it to Billy that day, he smiled kindly but shook his head. "I'd love to go, but work's been so busy lately. You should go, though. You deserve a night out." There was no argument, no tension. Just the same calm understanding that had become their norm. Yuna nodded, hiding a small sigh.
気があった。相変わらずだよ。そうなの。仕事どうなの？
The following week, the reunion took place at a cozy restaurant overlooking the city. The air was filled with laughter, old jokes, and that sweet mixture of familiarity and change. Faces she hadn't seen in years, some softened, some matured, all glowing with the warmth of memory.
でもゆな、早く会いたいな。
会うな、でもゆなとも。
そうだよね。
元気してるかな。
朝まで遊んだよね。
最近どうなの？
いや、なんかさ、もう仕事忙しすぎてストレス溜まっちゃってさ、私も。
忙しい方がいいよな、でもな。
ゆな？
ゆな、おー、久々じゃん。
久しぶり。
めっちゃ久々じゃん。全然変わってないね。綺麗だな。
泣いたの？
帰ってきた。
いいね。
綺麗だな。
相変わらずね。
飲み物どうする？
そうだ。大丈夫？
何しようかな。
これウーロンハイなんだけど。
美味しそう。私もしようかな。
同じの。
同じの。
みんなで久しぶりだよね。
本当だね。飲もうで。ね、せっかくだよ。
そう。 疲れてるからさみんな。
ストレス溜まってるよみんな。
ね
And then they saw him, Mr. Oma. Their old homeroom teacher, the one everyone adored. He hadn't changed much, though his hair was a little grayer and his expression gentler. Once, he had taught literature, but after retiring, he'd become a psychological counselor, helping people rediscover peace within themselves. When their eyes met, he smiled in recognition. "Yuna," he said softly, "you haven't changed. Still thoughtful, I see." They exchanged pleasantries, talked about old times, and laughed about school memories. But in that joy, Mr. Oma noticed something in her, a quiet weight she couldn't quite hide. He didn't pry. Instead, he shared stories about his counseling work, about how people sometimes lose connection, not because of conflict, but because life quietly drifts them apart. His words weren't advice, but they lingered with a comforting truth. She replayed the conversations in her mind. She realized that maybe, for the first time in years, she had spoken freely, not as someone's wife, not as a professional, but simply as herself. That small encounter lit something inside her. A simple thought. Maybe happiness isn't something we lose. Maybe it's something we forget to nurture. And just like that, the class reunion, something she almost skipped, became the beginning of a new chapter. The morning after the reunion, the city outside seemed brighter, the sound of the wind softer, and the memories from last night played in her mind like an old song she hadn't heard in years. She remembered the laughter of her classmates, the way they spoke about their lives, some successful, some struggling, but all of them alive with the kind of openness she hadn't felt in a long time. For the first time, she realized how much she missed that feeling of connection, of being seen, not for what she did, but for who she was. And above all, she remembered Mr. Oma's calm words. He had said something simple, almost casually. "Yuna, sometimes we think happiness fades, but really, it just needs our attention again, like a flower that waits for sunlight." Those words echoed in her mind all day. Later that week, Yuna received a kind message from Mr. Oma. Just a short note asking how she'd been since the reunion. There was nothing formal about it, no hidden meaning, just a genuine check-in from a teacher who still cared about his students. She replied politely at first, thanking him for his time, but gradually their exchanges became more personal. They talked about books, about life, about how time changes people in quiet ways. Mr. Oma never gave direct advice. Instead, he guided her to ask questions about herself. What makes you feel most alive these days? What do you wish you could bring back from your younger self? Yuna didn't have answers at first, but those questions lingered, gently encouraging her to look inward. She began journaling again, something she hadn't done since college. Each night, before bed, she'd write small reflections, things that made her smile, small acts of kindness she noticed, moments when she felt grateful. Slowly, her days began to feel lighter. Even Billy noticed. When they sat together and talked, he smiled and said, "You seem happier lately. What's your secret?" Yuna hesitated, then laughed softly. "Maybe I'm just learning to notice the good things again." It wasn't a dramatic change, no sudden transformation, no grand declarations. But there was a subtle shift in the air between them. The connection she thought was lost wasn't gone after all. It had simply been neglected. Through her conversations with Mr. Oma, Yuna realized how easily people forget to care for the emotional spaces within a relationship. When life gets busy, kindness becomes assumed instead of expressed. Love becomes background noise instead of a melody. And the more she understood that, the more she began to change how she saw everything around her. She had been waiting for happiness to return, thinking it was lost. But now she understood. It was like tending a garden. It would grow back when you water it. It was a small realization, but it felt like a breakthrough. Her friendship with Mr. Oma remained gentle and respectful. He was a mentor, a reminder of perspective, someone who helped her see the invisible beauty of her own strength. Sometimes, Yuna would pass by her reflection and notice a new kind of calm in her expression. Not the forced smile of pretending everything was fine, but the quiet peace of someone learning to rebuild from within. Life has a quiet way of testing us, especially when we start to find peace again. For Yuna, things had been slowly improving. Gentle mornings with Billy, light laughter returning to their evenings, and a growing sense of gratitude blooming inside her.
Soka. それは辛いな。よく相談してくれたよ。
今まで誰にも言えなくて。
そうか。ユナが話してくれたから、先生のことも話さないとな。いや、実はな、先生も同窓会では話せなかったけど、実は妻とは死別してるんだ。
そうなんですか？
ああ、昔のことだけどな。先生みたいに夫婦仲を取り戻したくても取り戻せない奴がいる。だから同窓会の時のユナの表情がどうしても気になってな。
ありがとうございます。先生にいろいろ聞いてもらって少し落ち着きました。
そうか、それはよかった。最近はどうなんだ？何かいいことあったか？
特にはないかな。
ないのか、寂しいな。先生と会ってる時か。
楽しいです。
それを言った。
One day, something small, something ordinary, unsettled that fragile calm. It was a weekend afternoon. Billy had mentioned a short meeting with a colleague at a nearby cafe. Yuna didn't think much of it. She trusted him completely. But then, while walking through the shopping district, she happened to see him standing there, laughing and joking on the street with a woman she didn't know. They looked cheerful, comfortable, like old friends sharing a good story. In that instant, a flood of emotion washed over her. Not anger, more like confusion and an ache she couldn't name. Her mind began to race. Why didn't he tell me who he was meeting? Why does this feel strange? She didn't want to assume, didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the image lingered. That evening, she was unusually quiet at home. Billy noticed, but when he asked if something was wrong, she simply smiled and said she was tired. Inside, however, her thoughts were tangled. Maybe the hardest part of love isn't losing trust. Maybe it's learning how to keep your heart open when uncertainty knocks. The next day, she reached out to Mr. Oma, not to complain or seek validation, but to understand what she was feeling. He listened, patiently as always, letting her speak without interruption. After a pause, he said gently, "Yuna, the mind creates stories when the heart is uncertain. Before those stories take root, ask yourself, what evidence is real, and what is fear trying to tell you?" His words weren't meant to erase her feelings, but to bring her back to reflection. Sometimes, we must trust the person we chose, and at the same time, trust ourselves enough to ask questions calmly. Communication isn't confrontation, it's an act of care. Yuna sat quietly after their conversation, letting his words sink in. That day, instead of keeping silent, she decided to talk to Billy. Billy blinked, surprised at first, then smiled with understanding. "Oh, that must have looked strange," he said kindly. "She's a designer from another team. We were discussing a project. I should have mentioned it. I didn't think it mattered." His tone wasn't defensive. It was open, honest. And in that small moment, Yuna felt something powerful. Not just relief, but a sense of maturity. It wasn't the explanation that healed her, but the way they handled it, with calm, empathy, and mutual respect. The misunderstanding that could have become a crack in their bond instead became a bridge, a moment that reminded them both of how fragile and yet how resilient human connection can be. Yuna felt lighter. She realized that emotional growth isn't measured by how rarely we stumble, but by how gently we rise each time we do. Yuna began to see her life with new eyes. It wasn't that her marriage had suddenly become perfect. It was that she had rediscovered how to nurture it with patience, communication, and care. It was through that openness that Yuna and Billy began to reconnect. People often think healing means forgetting pain, but true healing means remembering it with understanding. Pain teaches us compassion, and compassion keeps love alive. That reunion hadn't just reconnected her with her past, it had guided her back to her present, to the love, the patience, and the understanding that were always waiting for her to see them again. That class reunion not only helped her meet the greatest teacher of her life, not only to remind her of the past, but also to guide her to find herself again.